Good morning and welcome to the October meeting of the Planning Committee. My name is Councillor Jonathan Vinehall, Chairman of the Planning Committee. This meeting is being held remotely and is being live streamed via YouTube, and the recording of it will be available afterwards on our website. Councillors and officers are reminded to put their mobile and other phones on silent if they have one near them. Committee members only, please put your cameras on and mute your microphones when not speaking, as this will reduce feedback and background noise and also saves bandwidth and potential loss of connection. I'll first do a roll call to check all the members who are expected to attend are present, and as I say your name, please turn on your microphone and confirm you are connected. Councillor Sam Coleman.
Present, Chair.
Councillor Gary Curtis.
Present.
Councillor Sarah Errington.
Present.
Councillor Brian Drayson.
Present.
Councillor Tony Ganley.
Present.
Councillor Jonathan Johnson.
Present.
Councillor Chris Madeley.
Present.
Councillor Andrew Mear.
Present.
Councillor Howard Norton.
Present.
Councillor Susan Prochak.
Present.
Councillor Jeanette Stevens.
Present.
Councillor Hazel Tempe.
Present.
I hope I've not missed anyone. If I have, please let me know. Also, Councillor Richard Thomas is here, as is Councillor Polly Gray, that I know of. Are there any other councillors present that wish to be recorded at the meeting? Officers joining us today are Tim Hickling, who's the Head of Strategy and Planning, and Sam Batchelor, who is the Development Manager. We also have two technical staff available today, Claire and Kieran, and our Democratic Services Manager and Committee Clerk for the day is Lisa Cooper. Members of the committee will be making the decisions today by a named vote. Lisa will call out each member in turn and they will either answer for or against or abstain. And please remember to turn your microphones on when you're about to vote. Because of the new format, members are encouraged to make their comments succinct and pertinent to ensure the smooth running of the meeting and to try not to repeat what others have already said. However, should a member lose connection, I'll stop the meeting for 2 minutes to enable a connection to be restored. If your connection can't be restored within 2 minutes, the meeting will proceed and you'll not be allowed to vote. Should you lose connection during an application, I expect you to advise such when it comes to the vote. Those members who wish to speak, please indicate by typing your surname only in the chat facility. The chat facility is persistent in that it cannot be deleted, and inappropriate use would be deemed as a potential code of conduct matter. I'll ask members who have asked a question if they wish to come back after receiving a response. So there's no need to type your name in the chat facility a second time. We don't have any speakers for or against the application from parish or town councils, and there are no registered speakers today. It is a requirement that all members will have read the paperwork published on the website. We'll stop for a comfort break if appropriate, but members are reminded if that happens not to press the leave meeting button, just turn off your cameras and microphones. We will consider the applications in the order they're shown in the papers. Just a reminder that there can be a short time delay of around 5 seconds before a member appears on screen, so just pacing ourselves is important. I'm going to move on to the agenda now, and before I ask for the minutes to be authorised, I'm just going to say something very quickly, which I'm sure some people will be aware that I might be saying, because it is certainly my great pleasure, and I think our great pleasure, to congratulate Councillor Susan Prochak today on receiving an MBE for her services to Robertsbridge, which was announced just this last week. Sue has been the ward councillor for Robertsbridge for more than 30 years and is, quite frankly, a shining example to all of us and a model for what a ward councillor should be. During this time and today, Sue is deeply involved in her community through a wide range of community groups. She works quietly and always with great humility, but with extraordinary commitment to do the best for all the residents and businesses in Robertsbridge, and is extremely well known in the village and the whole parish. I personally wish I could be half the councillor Sue is. I cannot think of a more deserving councillor to be given this honour and to be the only one of two Rother councillors to hold that honour. I would like to have it minuted that this committee, and I'm sure you will all join me, recognises and acknowledges the work done by Sue Prochak over the many years, and that we congratulate her as she is fully deserving of this well-earned honour. And if I could ask everyone just for a moment to turn your microphones on and give a short round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you don't have to respond. If you want to, do. If you don't want to, don't. Well, your microphone's off anyway.
I say, totally unexpected. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Hugely kind words. And I just want to quickly say that being an effective counsellor, you rely so much on other people, on volunteers, and I totally rely on ROTHA officers who over the years, have been extraordinary, because that's where we go to when we want to solve a problem, is our ROTHA officers. Also my colleagues, I'm so proud of ROTHA District Council, so committed to local authorities. I think certainly the COVID crisis has shown how amazing local authorities, especially the lower tier ones like the district and parish, how valuable they are. And you can't do this stuff alone, as you all know. So thank you so much for the clap. It was lovely. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So thank you very much. What a wonderful thing to happen. So if I could first ask that I be given the authority to sign the minutes of the meeting of the Planning Committee held on the 10th of September 2020 as a correct record, and they will be signed by me at a later date. Do you all agree to that?
Agreed.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2. I believe we have apologies from Councillors Barnes, as a substitute, Councillor Mary Barnes, and Councillor Harmer and Councillor Langlands. Is that correct, Lisa?
Chairman, yes, just to confirm, substantive members, councillors Mrs Barnes and Harmer, and substitute members, councillors John Barnes, Cortell and Langlands.
Thank you very much. I don't believe we have any additional items on the agenda today, and I don't believe we have any withdrawn items. Could we have any disclosures of interest, please?
Chairman, do I have to say at this point that I am not going to be voting on the application, the one application, as I couldn't attend the site visit?
Well, it's as good a time as any, so we'll record that. And Councillor Coleman?
I think Councillor Madeley was before me, but yes, I just declare a small non-prejudicial interest in that I work at the Bloods Hall, which is next to and on the same site as the Manor Barn. And
thank you. And Councillor Madeley?
Yes, mine is non-prejudicial and purely personal. I'm a member of the Old Town Preservation Society, who are the lessees of Manor Barn, and until 3 years ago, I worked there for 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, if any other interests arise during the planning applications, of which there's only 2, both connected, please let us know. So on that basis, I'm going to move to the first application and ask Sam Batchelor to cover that. That is RR 2020/1135/P, which is Manor Barn, Delaware Road. Can I hand over to you, Sam?
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman. So let me just load up the presentation for you. Bear with me while I do that. So hopefully you can see that now. Can someone confirm?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep.
Right. I'll carry on. So yeah, quite a small proposal really, but any questions do let me know. It's an application for air source heat pumps on both the north and south ends of the Manor Barn building, to also be encased within some timber housing. So here's a site plan, just to familiarise yourself with the site that we visited on Tuesday and its general location. So is the road here, the car park where we congregated, and the red line outlines the building. These are elevation drawings showing the existing and proposed elevations, so the location of the timber surround structure on both ends of the building. You'll note from your site visit that this elevation at least is drawn incorrectly, in so much as there's a power unit here, which, as explained on site by Councillor Madeley, is linked to power for both the gardens and the building. But that shows their location. And then here's just some information about the timber housing, which you'll note from your report is conditioned to be made of a hardwood, which would be untreated as well, so that it would weather naturally. The heat pump would be installed underneath that, attached to the building, and there would be a 30 millimetre pipe from the unit through the wall of the building as well to the other side. This is the one of the ends of the building where one of the units would be. So when we were on site, that unit would probably be located approximately here. There are some additional photos in here. Sorry about that. These are just ones of the building, which I'm sure you'll all agree looks quite attractive. And this is the other end, so the other unit would be here, and that's that power unit that I referred to. So the recommendation for the planning application is for approval, but I do have one update for you, which is that the recommendation is slightly tweaked, because you'll note from your report that we reported that we were awaiting comments from the environmental health officer, and whilst the case officer has been in discussion with them, that remains unresolved. The reason for that consultation was because there was an objection from a local resident with regard to the noise of the units. We don't believe that the resident concerned would be affected by the proposals. They live, as I understand it, over 100 metres away, possibly 150 metres away from the site, but nonetheless, there is the religious building next door. We're not aware if people actually reside there or not, but they certainly use the building for quiet contemplation at least. And so we just want some clarity regarding whether or not any additional measures are required in relation to the unit. And so the slight change in recommendation is still to resolve to approve, but delegated subject to the completion of that consultation exercise with environmental health, and they're okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Well, Councillor Gray, who's the ward member, said she does want to speak initially, but may want to at some point, and I'm very happy for that. Councillor Madeley, you have indicated would like to speak.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Chris Madeley, and I redeclare my personal interest as a member of the OTPS. I wish to propose that items 7 and 8 be deferred for more detailed information and discussion. The site visit revealed 2 carbuncles stuck on the north and south external faces, which were quite out of keeping with this historic Grade 2 listed building. Assuming that the only places where these vents can be placed are as shown on the plan, there are several more sympathetic casings which could be built. I'm also very surprised that the conservation officer was happy with the design. Given that the application is for the external housing of the air conditioning units, I assume that pipework and ducting will be required internally. And given the Grade 2 listing of the building, an application for the entire works would be submitted for discussion. The application should include all aspects as they are inextricably linked. I so move. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Could I invite comments on that, or seconders? Either will be good. Any comments? No comments. I'll make a comment. I actually agree. I think I was surprised. I thought it was a straightforward application, but when I saw it, I thought the citing was inappropriate. I actually don't think that air source pumps work particularly good when they're encased either, and they can actually be sited away from a building. I know in a modern building there, it's always best to site them against it, but it seems that if they can be sited away and the piping run underground, as you do with a lot of these sort of systems, that would be a lot more sympathetic to the building. That was my thought on it. So I'm personally happy to second that, and so we can take a vote. But I think Sam Batchelor has some comments to make.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It was mostly just in relation to the internal arrangements, because I do appreciate that was a bit of an unknown when we undertook the site visit on Tuesday. The case officer to query that further with the applicants. We've been advised that once the unit has gone through the wall, the intention is that the air source heat pump would be fitted within existing recesses within the current heating system, which will also then utilise associated existing ducting to basically circulate the air around the building. So as it stands, we've been informed that there wouldn't be any internal changes required to facilitate the installation, other than the attachment of the, they call them cassette units, but I think that's essentially something that connects one bit of pipework to another. So we've been advised that there isn't any internal changes, and it's just the external proposal. So notwithstanding the concerns about the location, that's the situation regarding the internal arrangement.
Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I need to say from the site visit, I didn't think it seemed too intrusive on either the look of the building or the area around it. I mean, one was going to be next to a already existing gigantic black electrics box, which I think most of us can agree that certainly on that side it wouldn't make too much of a difference to the appearance. But then on the other side, it seemed it was going to be surrounded by quite a lot of green and sort of plant growth, which would almost shield it, I think, from most people's view, unless you were staring at that side wall, which I also don't think is one of the areas of sort of beauty that people stop and look at. I think they look at the front and the back of the building, and they look at the grounds, but I think the sides aren't areas of sort of particular sort of, oh, how wonderful is that side of a building. So for me, I think that those little wooden casings would be quite discreet, I think, and so I mean, I'm listening to what Councillor Madeley says, and I'm certainly thinking about it a bit more now. But from the site visit, I was very much thinking that, I couldn't see much against this application necessarily.
Thank you, Councillor Madeley. A microphone.
Thank you. Yes, I what's something that Councillor Coleman has raised. The positioning of these casings is not too bad. It's a style of casing. There are alternatives. I've found all sorts of alternatives which are so much more attractive, if that's the word, or than technically minded. But there are so many other ways of dealing with this. My reason for flagging up to mention is more the internal at the entrance end of things, because it could end up with ducting, surface ducting, and all sorts of horrible things which wouldn't be conducive to the style or grade 2 listing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Errington.
Thank you. I was just going to say, in terms of the ducting, it does say that all that's going to go into the wall is a very small pipe. Is that the case? I think that's what I've read of. So there's not going to be anything outside apart from this wooden structure. Can I just check that with Sam first, please?
Hey, Sam, yeah.
In terms of what would be visible ultimately outside, yes, it would just be the wooden structure. Everything otherwise is still outside. The unit is outside.
Yeah.
And the pipework would go through the wall. But yeah, in terms of what would be seen, it would all be then surrounded by that wooden structure.
Right, thank you. My other question was to Councillor Madeley about. So she's suggesting that it's somehow put off site. but it would have to be somewhere within the gardens, wouldn't it? If it wasn't attached to the building, it would have to be another location within the gardens themselves and have a similar type of setup, and there would be a cost involved in channeling whatever to make that access happen. And would there be potential damage to some of the pathways or something else? I just wondered what the alternative was, if she's got a bit more detail. Thank you.
Councillor Madeley, did you want to come back on that before we move to?
I don't think I said recite it anywhere else. It's simply the casing or the housing that I feel there are so many other ways of doing it more attractively. I appreciate it needs access from the outside if there's servicing, hence a housing which can be lifted off. But I was thinking more perhaps something, it might be perhaps brickwork which would match in and could have a front removable vent on it. I mean, I don't want to go on about the various things that I'm sure the applicant and rather could come up with some alternative ideas.
Thank you. Councillor Errington, it was I who said that citing it elsewhere might be more appropriate, that you can run pipes. And that was because I personally felt it was pretty ugly on the side of the building, and it was not necessary to exacerbate the problem that's already been caused on the first side where that electricity box has been poorly placed with other things. But they were my comments, not Councillor Madeley's. Councillor Mear.
Mr. Chairman, presumably the intention of the application is to save energy, that a heat pump draws energy from the surrounding air and therefore saves on the use of electricity or other heating sources. And I think we have to be mindful of our commitment to avoiding climate change and reducing CO2 emissions. And I think in that regard that this could help. I agree with Councillor Madeley that the appearance of what we just saw on the slide was unattractive, but there is a requirement that this is to be untreated hardwood, and I think the finished product could be a lot better, and if delegated to officers for approval of the final setup, then that might be acceptable. I don't want to set a hair running, but I had a look at the listing last night, and I'm not completely convinced that the barn itself forms part of the listing. The ruins are listed, but I don't see a listing for the barn. It may be that it makes very little difference in this case because it is so closely adjacent, and I think we have to take the listing into account anyway. But I just throw that in. Thank you.
Did anyone have any other comments? So there was a proposal to adjourn to determine those two items if there was a better location. I will point out that I do actually think that if you box an air source heat pump, it doesn't work very efficiently. So the concept of the efficiency you get is lost because you encase it and it actually can't draw the air quickly. I think that's been ignored by the applicant. I seconded that for Councillor Madeley, so I'm going to pass it to Lisa to take a vote, and the vote is on adjournment to allow them to the applicant to come up with some alternative treatments for the box or reciting of it to view that. Lisa, can I hand that over to you?
Yes, certainly, Chairman. So I shall read out the councillors' names in alphabetical order and excluding those councillors who weren't present at the site visit, which was councillors Ganley and Proshak. So Councillor Coleman.
Against.
Councillor Curtis.
Against.
Councillor Errington.
For.
Councillor Johnson.
Against.
Councillor Madeley.
For.
Councillor Mear.
Against.
Councillor Norton.
Against.
Councillor Stevens.
Against.
Councillor Tenpe.
For.
Councillor Vinehall.
For.
That's lost, Chairman.
Good, thank you very much. So we now need to have somebody propose something else? Councillor Coleman.
Yes, Chair, I'd like to propose that we accept the officer's recommendation.
And do I have a seconder for that?
Councillor Curtis.
Councillor Curtis, a second. Lisa, can I hand over to you again? This is a vote for accepting the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Coleman.
For.
Councillor Curtis.
For.
Councillor Errington.
Against.
Councillor Johnson.
For.
Councillor Madeley.
Against.
Councillor Mear.
For.
Councillor Norton.
For.
Councillor Stevens.
For.
Councillor Tempe.
Against.
Councillor Vinehall.
Against.
That's carried, Chairman.
And it was consistent as well. Thank you very much. Which takes us on to the second part of that. And this is the listed building section of the same application, RR 2020-1136/L. Sam, I'll hand over to you. I'm not sure that you need to go into great detail on it because I think it's effectively a reflection of the first one.
Yeah, you'd be correct, Chairman. So I won't repeat the presentation, but the listed building application is just on the listed building heritage issues and not the issues relating to noise that I mentioned earlier.
Good, thank you. Do I have anyone who'd like to speak on this or put forward a proposal? Anyone proposing here? Yes, Councillor Coleman.
I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have anyone seconding that?
Councillor Curtis.
Councillor Curtis, thank you very much. Lisa, can I hand over to you, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Coleman.
For.
Councillor Curtis.
For.
Councillor Errington.
For.
Councillor Johnson.
For.
Councillor Madeley.
Against.
Councillor Mear.
For.
Councillor Norton.
For.
Councillor Stevens.
For.
Councillor Tempe.
Against.
Councillor Vinehall.
Against.
That's carried, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that application. That is the only application today. We move on to section agenda item 9, which is appeals, and this is to note the appeals. Are there any appeals on here, either allowed or dismissed, that anyone would like to ask questions of Mr. Batchelor? That's yes, Councillor Prochak.
Yeah, just a quick one is that I've been following with quite interest the Settlescombe one appeal, which is the OST, and it's not there. I just wondered what had happened to it. It's the OST
Yes.
farm. I wonder what.
Sam, can you, Batchelor, can you answer that?
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Prochak. Which one? I can probably. This is quite convenient nowadays. I can probably look it up on the system now. Actually,
it's the Oast House. I know the one that Councillor Prochak's talking about because I know the site. It's the Oast House at Battle Barn Farm, and I think it's to do with the roundel. I think, or the whole renovation of it.
306. 306.
sorry, Councillor Prochak. Is that the application number?
Yeah.
306.
Because I always wondered why it was refused.
It doesn't.
I've got the application here.
No, I can find out later.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want to come back to me, I was just seeing if I could find it in the meantime. I mean, the report, I would say, obviously only is not a list of all current appeals.
Oh, okay.
It's a list of ones that are lodged and started within that time frame of this month's planning committee, and the ones that have been decided. So if there's one on the books, which there is, because this is an appeal application, then it wouldn't necessarily be listed on here if it's just ongoing.
Okay.
Any other questions on this list? Sam, could I ask you when you expect the Buckholt Lane application to come up for hearing?
I don't believe that we've got any indication. I don't know if Tim knows any more about it. I know we've written to them, or the planning inspectorate, I should say, with our preferred approach. And we're just waiting to hear, I think.
Tim, do you have any?
Chairman, if I can add, I've got something in the back of my mind to say there's a hearing date sometime in the new year, either January or February, and Jeff Pyra is obviously the case officer.
That's been a long.
We can give you the definitive date.
That's about a 12-month lead into that, isn't it?
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think we're finding with hearings, particularly, the timelines are increasingly, well, actually being longer. I mean, there was an article in the Planning Press this week that I think said the average time for an application through appeal to hearing is 42 weeks now.
Oh, goodness.
And that's gone significantly in the last 4 years.
And this is mainly due to COVID, really, isn't it? And the ability.
COVID and capacity of pins, absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. If there aren't any other questions, if it can be resolved, that this report be noted. Do we need to vote on this, Lisa?
I believe you don't usually do a recorded vote for this.
No. So unless anyone has any objections, it will take it as resolved. And on that basis, that is the completion of today's planning committee, which I suspect is a record in half an hour. So thank you very much. And a short reminder that there is the presentation this afternoon for members on a briefing for the white paper at 3:30. If you haven't got the link, I'm sure Julie or Lisa will give that to you. So probably look forward to seeing most of this afternoon. Thank you. And Tim did actually send out another YouTube link as a bit of background as well. So if you have time to look at that as well. So thanks for that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Chairman, sorry, can we just note the time and date for the next future site inspections?
We can
note the
time and date. The time and date, which is agenda item 10, is the 10th of November 2024, for the site inspections.
Okay.
And Councillor Drayson.
Yes, I know I unfortunately can't go to this afternoon's training. Will it be recorded?
If I may, it's not being recorded, but what I would say, Councillor Drayson, is if you can watch the video link that I've given you.
Yeah, I've started. Thank you.
And if you've got any comments you want to send directly to me, because the whole purpose of this afternoon is to discuss with members what they consider to be the issues to help us inform our response back to government office. So if you've got any comments offline, if you like, having watched that, please send them to me and we can incorporate that.
Can we not record it? Is there any reason?
It wasn't intended to be recorded because largely most of the briefing is members making their comments known for discussion, but if members want it to be recorded, I don't have an issue with that.
It would be a good idea if we can, if it's not too much trouble. Sam, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It was just to come back and be a bit more definitive about those appeals, actually. The appeal date, unless there's been any other correspondence since, and I'm not aware there has, for the Buckholt Lane applications, has been set at 10 AM on the 19th of January.
Okay.
And there's usually a lead-in time for the consul for notification of that. I think it's something like 6 weeks beforehand, so there'll probably likely be notices about that in due course, so local residents can be aware. And then for the subsequent one, Councillor Prochak, that you mentioned, on the system here, we were notified of the applicant submitting the appeal in June last year, so June 2019, and the planning inspectorate wrote to the applicant telling them that information was missing from their application, their appeal form, and there doesn't seem to be any activity since then. So the appeal actually doesn't appear to have even been started. So that's the update on those ones.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, on that basis, we'll say this is the end of the meeting. Thank you very much.